Hey everybody, welcome into Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, Indiana. This is Rapid Reactions brought to you by Byers Auto. That is Spencer Holbrook and Jeremy Birmingham. I am Austin Ward. Ohio State, I think it was 54-7. I can't be sure because I stopped paying attention about halftime. This game was over early. Ohio State dominant on all three phases. The offense is just continuing to get better with CJ Stroud and TreVeyon Henderson. And for my money, don't know maybe top 5 or top 10 about it. They're the best backfield combination in the country at this point. Defense continuing to come along, holding Indiana well under 200 yards. Yes, they didn't have their starting quarterback
or their second string quarterback.
Or their second string quarterback, or maybe their third. I don't even know who that was out there, but it wouldn't have mattered if they had Tom Brady tonight. The pass rush was back. I mean, this is why Ohio State has won 4 straight Big Ten titles. They are that much better than everybody else, and I think tonight was probably another warning shot that the best could still be ahead of them in the second half of the season.
Yeah, and I think it's important that on the first drive of the game, the defense gave up 3 long third down conversions to Indiana and allowed a touchdown. They ended up, knocking Jack Tuttle essentially out of the game on the touchdown pass, and that did change things. But to me, it's just the calm and cool of CJ Stroud is unbelievable. Like the Buckeyes come out, they score on that first drive, and they didn't do it in their normal way. They dink and dunk themselves down the field. Second series after Indiana scores and ties it, 3 plays, touchdown, and it's just like there's not even there's no sweat off CJ's back. And I think it's just pretty incredible to watch a kid who 4 weeks ago looked to be pretty shaky confidence-wise, and whatever happened on that week off, when Kyle McCord was playing against Akron, the light is on, and I'm just going to say it. It's going to sound crazy.
Here we go.
Are you crazy?
Every single year in the last 4 years, we've said to ourselves, is this the best Ohio State quarterback of all time? And CJ Stroud has the potential to be, this is a rocket ship that he's on right now. And he is an absolute Heisman contender. He's an absolute Big Ten Player of the Year candidate and an All-American candidate. There's no other quarterback in the country playing better.
Yeah, I think I said it to you guys on Wednesday, and I firmly believe that as we head back to Ohio now, that CJ Stroud should be the odds-on favorite to win the Heisman Trophy.
Well, that was your bold prediction. He would leave this game as the odds-on favorite.
Yeah, and I can't control what Vegas does with the odds, but I think for anybody who on Saturday afternoon said, wow, Caleb Williams took the ball out of his teammate's hand and got a 4th and 1 conversion against Kansas, it's a Heisman moment. Well, I hope that they watched what CJ Stroud and TreVeyon Henderson both did tonight. Those are 2 of the best players in America, and one is a redshirt freshman quarterback who still only started 6 games. The other is a true freshman running back who barely even gets to play a half. He's dealt with injuries, and he still, scored 3 more touchdowns tonight. He's going to author one of the best. He's on pace to have one of the best freshman seasons in Ohio State history at one of the most fabled positions of any program anywhere, and he's doing it with a handful of carries per game.
He doesn't even have 100 touches on the season. He has not hit 100 touches on the season, and he should be in the Heisman Trophy conversation. That is absurd on every level, and he's not even the best Heisman Trophy candidate on this roster, like you guys said. CJ Stroud's playing at such an unbelievable clip. The only thing that I can think of to compare this game to was the way you felt about midway through the first quarter of the Maryland game 2 years ago, when Ohio State was just absolutely pouring it on, and you knew that there was nothing that they could do to screw it up, and there was nothing Maryland could do to even consider stopping Ohio State. This was as dominant of a performance in Big Ten play as I can remember from this team. And this place, I'm going to give this stadium a little credit. The students were ready to go. This place was ready to go, and the Indiana fans were actually being pretty loud. And midway through the second quarter, we looked over the right to our right over the stadium, and there was a traffic jam, a terrible traffic jam. Because people just knew it was done. It was over. There was nothing Ohio State was going to do to give this game back away to Indiana. And like I said, as dominant of a game as I can remember in the Big Ten.
I think, obviously you have to say that the weather was part of that. It seemed like it was pretty nice out here for the most part, Berm. Is that fair? No, I guess it wasn't. But after the safety, after the botched punt, the realization sunk in. Indiana fans probably knew how this was going to go. They've seen this play out the same way, I think 78 or 79 years in a row. I can't remember what the number is, but it doesn't matter. I'm fudging all the numbers tonight because they just didn't matter. Ohio State was so much better than Indiana, but they could sense what was happening. Yeah. Once the groundswell started for Ohio State, their top gear on offense, nobody has that. They are uniquely built, uniquely positioned to dominate, and once they press the accelerator, they go 0 to 60 in a heartbeat.
Because there's no real way to stop them. It doesn't matter if you stop CJ Stroud in the passing game, then they'll just run the ball. If you stop the running game, and again, Indiana did a nice job early setting the tone, trying to at least keep Ohio State from busting the big runs. And then Mayan Williams, on his first drive of the game, Henderson leaves the game with a minor, I don't know what was going on, and then Mayan Williams runs for the long touchdown. And then it's just so fun. I mean, I'm watching it, and I was inside of the photo room at halftime, and I was talking to some of the other media people, and the Indiana media people like, how do they do this? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, every year I think this is the best Ohio State offense I've ever seen, and somehow it keeps getting better, despite the fact that I looked out at one point and it was a true freshman quarterback, a true freshman running back, a true freshman wide receiver, another true freshman wide receiver, a true freshman right tackle, a true freshman walk-on center, a walk-on other guy at wide receiver, like in Chris Booker. Like, they're just so much better schemed up than anybody in the country. I watch receivers and they're never covered, and I don't know how that's possible.
I think people are going to, we've heard this for several games, several weeks now, that, and even as we're talking here right now, it sounds like it's hyperbole what we're saying with 2 Heisman contenders and the best Ohio State offense, or CJ Stroud being on pace to be, break every record. Like, it sounds crazy to be saying all these things, but I don't know what the argument is against it. Well, okay, Indiana is not the greatest opposition in the world. That's fine. Maryland is definitely not, and Rutgers is Rutgers. I certainly understand all that.
Well, we're going to find out if it's true starting probably next week.
But this was supposed to be part of it too. It's a Big Ten game on the road against a team that everyone says is well coached and plays hard and has great schemes and could bring pressure and this and that, and they were completely outmatched. Tyvis Powell said something I think is important, because we're going to talk about this with the defense in that opening drive. Like, he said that any game, he felt like that first quarter, if it was even, that was fine, because you had to adjust. You had to figure out the other team was going to put a script together. Spencer said that in the press box. Like, they have good coaches too. You have to give credit for that. But then as you adjust, as the athleticism takes hold, I mean, it was 47-0 after that.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that is Indiana ran, I think, 11 or 12 plays on the opening drive. You usually script your first 15 plays. After the script was done, there was absolutely nothing Indiana did that worked. Indiana had 75 yards on the first drive of the game and finished the game with, I think, 101 total yards. That is 26 yards in 3 quarters and 10 minutes. That's disgusting from the Ohio State defense. And if this defense continues to get better and continues to get better, Penn State will not score many points on this defense because it couldn't score on Illinois. Michigan will have trouble because Michigan can't throw the ball. Michigan State will have trouble because Michigan State can't pass the ball. If there's an offense...
They have the best receiving group in the Big Ten.
If there's an offense left,
I don't believe that.
If there's an offense left on
You're
the
a liar.
schedule, the 2 opponents for the Big Ten West would be Iowa or Wisconsin. This defense can only continue to get better, and it can only continue to get more confident until a December 31st game. And that sounds crazy because there's a lot left for the dust to settle before that happens. But if we are robbed of an Ohio State-Georgia game this season, I will be so sad.
I just think what we're looking at here is just the proof. And we tried to say this early in the season, and sometimes I know people hear us talking, oh, these guys are homers. Like, after that Oregon game, the message was very clear. Like, this team is super young. They lost a ton of playing experience a year ago that they really, really needed. And be patient and let them grow into what they can be. And I don't want to put too much on what the defense did against an obviously short-handed Indiana team. But that Indiana team scored 35 points against them last year, and Michael Penix threw for 500 yards. And they had the same receivers.
Yeah.
And Ty Freifogel caught 1 ball in this game as Denzel Ward, another true freshman. Denzel Burke, sorry, playing like Denzel Ward when he was at Ohio State, clamped him down. It's just something that I think people need to understand how important playing football is if you want to get better at football. And also that Michigan State thing was the Detroit Free Press had a story that I know, but
they
I want them to know. I didn't really say that. Obviously, they're not the best.
Think about what we're going to see from Denzel Burke real quick in the next few weeks. Jahan Dotson, David Bell, the guys from Michigan, Jalen Naylor from Michigan State. Like, you're going to see Denzel Burke, and you're going to see that trajectory continue to rise as he starts to become more of a household name, because the odds are those guys aren't getting open on him either. Go ahead.
There was a lot of scoffing about that too, that it's like if anybody should remember how dramatically things and exponentially things can change for a team that's that young and suffers an early loss, and I said it, whatever that was now, 6 weeks ago, you have the chance to do 2014 or 2018. This team looks like 2014, and if anything, I think that the ceiling they're well ahead of it.
The 2014 team, I mean, we all look back on it and remember them winning a championship, but they were still struggling this time of the year. They didn't really find their stride until the Big Ten championship game when everything clicked. So, they obviously played well down the stretch and beat Michigan and did the things they had to do, but it wasn't a situation where they went from 0 to 60 like this team has done in the last 3 weeks. I mean, what we've watched out of CJ Stroud is just the pass that he made right over here to Jackson Smith-Njigba in the first quarter is one of the best thrown passes I've ever seen a college quarterback throw. And then the one that he threw to Chris Olave for a touchdown in this corner was about as good as that one. Didn't you hear,
Berm? It's one of the best throws ever.
I mean, it was close. But it wasn't even just CJ Stroud, and this is what I think is so important about this game. We watched last year that CJ Stroud didn't get the experience that Kyle McCord and Jack Miller have gotten these last few weeks. And Kyle McCord today was a much better passer than he was in even the start that he had against the ball that he threw to Emeka Ibuka in the corner should have been a touchdown, and the guy made a really good play. Ibuka had it on his hands and got knocked away. But I just see a team that is getting everything they need right now experience-wise. And all that talk in the first 3 weeks about why are they playing so many guys on defense? Well, now we see why they're playing so many guys on defense, and now they've figured out what works.
Yeah. Among all those guys that we saw, and a lot of guys played, a lot of guys contributed. Some of them didn't get a ton of shine. I tried to mention some in the snap judgments, which were posted at halftime. I thought Jackson Smith-Njigba, he'd be the best receiver on just about any team in the country if he wasn't playing, alongside Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson right now.
In the country.
And Steel Chambers, you look at the stat sheet and you're going to see a lot of other guys with more numbers and more contributions. The way he is flying to the football right now, it kind of gets lost in the shuffle. So those were two that came immediately to mind for me as we wind down on Rapid Reaction, brought to you by Byers Auto. Who else stood out to you as somebody who is on that upward trajectory that we're talking about heading into the second half?
I mean, again,
well into the second half.
Denzel Burke, I was trying to key in on him a little bit today just to watch him compared to what we saw last year. But it was just an entire defensive line today that was dominant. I mean, Zach Harrison had the sack that got taken away from him, but Michael Hall got the play in the backfield. Tyleik Williams had the sack. Haskell Garrett had the sack on the first play of the game. Tyreek Smith made some plays and put forth some pressure. JT Tuimoloau got his first sack. Like this is a team that is just getting better and better. Tommy Eichenberg played a really solid game.
He did.
I don't even when you give up 100 yards, everyone obviously played pretty darn great. I mean, I don't know that there's a guy on defense that stood out, but to be fair, I was just doing like this the whole time, trying to stay dry.
Anybody else to name? I mean,
well, he tried to leave you, some options because
Schleg's over here. He took about the entire defense. I'm going to go with Jeremy Ruckert because this is one of the guys who was, quite frankly, underwhelming in the first half of the season and didn't look as focused. I think because we saw a couple drops. We saw the drop for the touchdown against Oregon. We saw a drop a couple weeks later, and I don't know if the focus was entirely there. And I think this could be a turning point for him with 5 catches, with 47 yards, with 2 touchdowns. It's crazy.
So unfair.
I know.
It's so unfair to these teams they're playing because he probably should be the best tight end in the country, and now CJ Stroud's figured out how to use him.
Yeah, and
like, uh-oh.
That's where I'm going with that because if CJ Stroud, who sees the field really well when it comes to his receivers, but I think he's still trying to get a feel for using his tight ends. If he can learn to use his tight ends, even the way Justin Fields did, because I don't think he was great at using the tight ends, if CJ Stroud can learn to use the tight ends the way Justin Fields did, there's not a team in the country that can stop this offense. Because if you have corners that can take the wide receivers and make them look a little, less than what they are. And are
there cornerbacks anywhere that can do that?
But if you were to negate what the receivers can do, and if you have the defensive line like a Georgia has, you still have to account for a tight end, and you can't take away everything. And if Jeremy Ruckert can find a turning point in this game with 2 touchdown catches, the sky is the limit for him, because he can be the best tight end in the country.
A lot of guys that are very good, I would say, nationally. This is a top 5, maybe top 10.
Okay, it's Bijan Robinson, and then it's
You know
Travion
who else
Henderson. Okay,
is really
There.
good? And I want to say this
Yeah.
and wish him a happy birthday, is Kevin Wilson. Kevin Wilson's pretty good. He's pretty underrated as far as an offensive coordinator goes. Ryan Day gets a lot of the credit for what Ohio State does offensively, but Kevin Wilson, who made this place into what they're trying to build here at Indiana, deserves some credit just for the way that he's been able to keep things steady.
They wouldn't have the building behind us right here. If it
All
wasn't
right.
Kevin Wilson.
Yeah, let's pack it up. Let's head out of the house that Kevin Wilson built and then came in here and destroyed as the Buckeyes dropped a nuclear bomb on Bloomington. An absolute beat down in B-Town, 54-7. We are going to head back to the great state of Ohio. This has been Rapid Reactions, brought to you by Byers Auto. Ohio State 54, Indiana 7. Next Saturday night, Rapid Reaction will come to you live from the Horseshoe after Ohio State and Penn State. A lot more coverage of the Buckeyes, of course, every day up until then. That's Spencer Holbrook and Jeremy Birmingham. I'm Austin Ward. We'll see you back home.